Most people think playing the Xbox makes you lazy, unhealthy and out of shape. You may have even been called a loser for playing it. But what if I told you that gaming could actually help you lose weight? And that sounds mental, right? What I'm really trying to do here is get you some more game time, friend. But what I'm also going to explain is how the Xbox can actually help you lose weight, in theory, and how that is even possible. And then after that, I'll explain what is so important about what the Xbox does or even promotes. And I'll also maybe advise when you need to do things like play the Xbox and when you're just simply being a lazy twat. So stick around, because I'm going to show you how your Xbox can be a secret weapon for better recovery, low stress, and ultimately better fat loss. First off, you may actually be saying, I'm not a gamer, James. I don't play the Xbox. And that sounds like you're the loser, friend. Or even worse, you might actually play the PS5. If you don't play either, I'm certain you've grown up with some sort of video game in your life. There is a billion to choose from now. Or even games on your phone. And I'll let you in a little secret as well. I've lied about the title a little bit, because this video isn't really about how fantastic the Xbox is, because that requires a video all by itself. What I'm really getting at here is resting. Complete disconnect from your life and relaxing a little bit. Because without it, along with exercise and eating well, you are in for a pretty rough life, friend. Your life is arguably the most hectic it's ever been, or ever will be. And it's unlikely going to get any easier. So it's best start looking after yourself before it's too late. What is it they say? You fix your mask first on a plane before anyone else's. Even your children. Because if you're incapacitated and passed out, you're useless to everyone else, aren't you? So let me get into a bit more detail about what I mean. I'm going to get to how the Xbox can specifically help you lose weight, because that is what you're here for, hopefully. But I want to explain a little bit more about what I mean at the core of this video. I'm basically just saying you need some downtime, friend. In the most hectic life where everyone is tech orientated, anxiety is through the roof with horrible things that go on in the news, social media, there's lights that are never switched off at night, brighter than ever with lights everywhere, 24/7 streaming, night shifts, etc. We're basically in a world now that never turns off. In this day and age, it's actually weird if you're relaxed, but the most important rule I'm trying to teach you when it comes to your health, nutrition, training overall, is all the positive benefits you seek from the gym happens outside of it. So knowing when to switch off and relax is arguably just as important as the diet and exercise you follow or carry out. So where does the Xbox come into this? I'm not going to spout studies that tell you that video game reduces stress by X amount and all that sort of shit. Because for some people it can actually do the opposite. Get yourself a game like FIFA or Call of Duty or Fortnite, and it can easily be the most frustrating thing you do in your day. Even more frustrating than trying to pack your 2 kids into the car for a day out. You know, the type of games you go through your controller at the screen. If you pick the right game though, like Lego games or Overcooked or something like that, basically anything that won't allow you to get schooled by a 12-year-old, it can be pretty relaxing. And that's what we're trying to encourage here, isn't it? Because there are many benefits to resting and relaxing. Only if you've earned it though. Because if you think you need a rest but you've spent all day in your bed already, you're a fucking idiot. Picture a person that's agitated, stressed out, constantly tired. The type of people that London is rife with. These people are constant go-getters. Just look at the state of them. It's the same type of people who say, I'm up at 4 AM because money sleeps for no one, living the grind and all that sort of stuff. You just have to note that there is a difference between having a well-earned rest after 10,000 steps in the gym and cardio session that you did and eating all your meals for the day compared to being a genuine lazy twat. But we're going to get to that later, friend. So now I've let on that this video is real about rest. But you might be wondering why it's so important, because it may not be as obvious to some. Contrary to popular belief, muscle growing and any sort of positive changes from exercising aren't made when you're in the gym, friend. They're made outside of it, when you're resting. Guess what also helps with the process? Eating well. But resting also stops you from getting into that feeling of overtraining and fatigue, which brings a whole other host of problems, such as poor sleep, tiredness, obviously, feeling hungry all the time, cravings, etc. And then you enter a state of constantly chasing your tail, of wanting to train, but being too tired to actually meaningfully do it. And what you should also know as well is that many of you fail your diet because you go too hard too often, basically creating an unsustainable energy deficit you can't stick to. You jump on that dreaded, horrible, godforsaken treadmill for far too long and eat far too boring and far too little unappealing food that satisfy you. So you're basically following a diet you don't really believe in because it's about as fun as punching yourself in the willy, and then you don't give yourself the proper amount of rest that you need after the massive energy deficit that you've created. You aren't actually aware of the unsustainable situation you've created for yourself, and then you get into the spiral of saying that you can't ever lose weight, and then you just give up. Can also say as well, there's not many instances that the tough times that you go through, whatever they may be, aren't cured or managed a bit easier in your life by a simple day's rest and a good sleep. Because another misconception of creating a better and healthy life is that you need to be on it 24/7. When you actually look at the best athletes in the world, or the best bodies that you fancy or strive to have, they're all made by having a ton of rest. And granted, these athletes are already living an unrealistic life compared to the average dad, but there's always time somewhere in your day to put your feet up and let your body adapt to the stresses you've caused it. And not allowing that time for adaptations, it's like a battery constantly running on empty. So resting should be a very important part of your day, which is ironically what we're amazing at in this day and age, as we're the laziest civilization to ever grace this planet. But we do that now without being active. Many of you think or assume you need to be in the gym for 20 hours a week, which actually puts a lot of people off in the first place, when all you really need minimum is 60 to 90 minutes of effective training. And then you just keep yourself tidy by some brisk walking multiple times a week, because you were designed to move after all. Building a body in this healthy lifestyle you picture in your head is a bit like getting a tattoo. Many people think a 2-hour tattoo is 2 hours of excruciating pain, when it's really about 1 hour of intermittent pain whilst chatting shit to your tattooist, or at least mine are anyway. Training is exactly the same. It's not 1 hour of going balls to the walls. It's probably more like 30 minutes, depending on what you're doing of course, but it is simply a minor inconvenience for some of you out there for a few hours max a week, which eventually should become enjoyable when you get over that hurdle, just because of the amazing benefits. And then after that, outside the gym, you can go as easy or as hard as you like. But to make it easy for you, I've actually made 31 emails for you. and they will help to create a diet and exercise plan that only requires you to give the minimum amount of effort required. And they're all for free. So I bet you sign up to the details below and start doing the bare minimum to change your body. Because right now you're actually doing less than that. And if you have a family, you owe it to them surely. And this rest I'm encouraging you to carry out covers all aspects of this whole thing I'm trying to get you to do, which is to become a class as fuck version of yourself. So it could mean you take a rest from your diet for a few days, or the dieting method that you're following, or training, or tracking, providing you intend to go back to it in the near future. Because today we're so hell-bent on the destination or the result. Like we're desperate for weight loss, but haven't really thought about the journey it takes to get there. That journey should be a gentle stroll to your goal, full of yeses and nos to offers, which then creates a host of minor inconveniences such as skipping desserts, missing nights out, swapping out your favourite foods for similar low-calorie alternatives, cardio, etc., rather than that journey being an absolute train wreck that it usually is. And that's because that journey tends to be full of over-restriction, tiredness, fatigue, doing far too much, not resting, being miserable, and your destination or goal is never actually reached. And even if you do, the results aren't usually sustained long-term, are they? And yes, saying no to certain things isn't ideal, but then so is being obese and overweight, and thinking you can keep eating a bunch of unideal food constantly and consistently for the rest of your life. Balance is required. See what's unfortunate as well? You are likely shit at resting properly because with kids, work, on your phone all the time, either taking calls or on social media, basically not taking time for yourself properly. And isn't it about time you start prioritising yourself a little bit more? Having kids is enough to warrant a rest sometimes, believe me. And when I say rest, I actually mean disconnecting and unwinding. Anyone who thinks that mindless scrolling online and watching shit like this is disconnecting, it's fully just as much shit as this idiot right here. And overall, yes, you want to remain in an energy deficit, but having a rest doesn't mean you put that in jeopardy. It'll arguably help keep that deficit going long term. Pushing a car to its limits and constantly being in the red catches up with it when you're asking it to do something unsustainably without rest. And the same goes for you, friend. So think of this rest like an F1 pit stop. You rest for you then to go again. So now you're probably rubbing your hands thinking, oh yes, I'm going to have a rest for the next 3 weeks because qualified nutritionist James is telling me. Well, wait a minute. Despite me encouraging you to get some rest, there is a fine line between rest and being lazy, because it is kind of subjective to each individual, and the only person that can really justify it is yourself. So you need to give yourself a bit of accountability, friend, because you can't really say, yeah, I'm having a rest from the gym when you've not been there for the past 6 months. That's not really justifiable, is it? Or I'm having a rest from my diet when you've had a takeaway the previous 3 nights. I'm just listening to my body for what it wants to eat, but you've been doing that for the past 20 years, because that's not really a rest from dieting, is it? Or what you want to eat. It's also encouraged that this rest is something that might keep you somewhat busy or engaged. Because if you rest and are bored at the same time, you're just encouraging instances of you eating shit just because you're bored, which does happen, especially binge watching TV or scrolling through your phone for hours. So this is where the Xbox comes in, because that's relaxing, sometimes. And it doesn't happen all the time to everyone, but eating simply because you're bored is a thing. And couple that with being tired in front of the TV after a hard day's work. Is it any wonder you dive balls deep into a share bag of crisps before you have a takeaway? You also don't want all this rest to get in the way of the boxes that you need to tick on a daily basis for whatever goal you have in mind, such as daily steps, eating well, exercising well, spending time with the family, etc. It should all be your bare minimum every day, in my opinion, regardless of your goal. Maybe when you've done them, then you consider jumping on Call of Duty and schooling some 8-year-olds. A wee question you might have here actually is, when's a good time for a rest, James? Some reasons you need a rest is just because you're feeling stressed all the time, you're maybe short-tempered, you're still tired when you wake up, you're dependent on caffeine, poor sleep, no energy to go to the gym, no giving it the full beans when you exercise, the typical usual stuff. You know what a bizarre one is for me? When I am absolutely knackered, my nose starts running like I'm ill, or I've got the cold or hay fever, and I'm not really sure who's more frustrating for. Me constantly snorting and sniffing and wiping my nose and blowing my nose, or my wife having to listen to it. I have definitely had to sleep downstairs because of it. Anyway, it might be slightly different for each individual, but recognising it is obviously a massive plus, and then managing it. Just know that you're not really thinking straight when you're tired, so just be sure to prioritise your rest amongst other things like your eating and exercising. Another quick one I can actually hear right now is, where do I get the time in my busy schedule with work and my mental kids? Well, that is when you have a grown-up conversation with your partner and say, hey sugar tits, I need a couple of hours to myself if that's alright. And then what I'll do is I'll take the kids to the cinema at the weekend, so you then get time to yourself. How easy is that? Maybe actually don't lead with the sugar tits. But what you can do maybe at the end of your day, stay up for another 30 minutes. Or get up earlier if it's possible. Just find some time in your day. Or what you could even do is get your kids involved. But I'm not really sure how you do that. You just get 2 controllers for the Xbox maybe. So, the next time you're feeling run down or beat up from a long and stressful week, give yourself a rest and then get on the Xbox. Don't have one, you say? Just buy yourself one for 500 quid and then pay 50 quid for a brand new game, because you've earned it. It will definitely be money well spent. Just don't tell your wife. And luckily for you also, I've just created this video here that complements this one because it's about stress. The very thing that gives you a legit reason to play the Xbox. You just say to your wife, hey bitch, I need a couple hours on the Xbox because I'm stressed. And also James said so. Again, maybe don't lead with the bitch. But seriously, the video does explain how it can impact your day negatively and how you can also maybe overcome it, because it's likely contributed to you maybe losing your way a wee bit in the past. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you in the next video.